And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Director at WEIU TV and Radio. My guest today is Dr. Holly Farley. Now, she has a long title. She's the Acting Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, also the Chair of the Gail and Richard Lumpkin School of Nursing, and Associate Professor. Holly.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And I should note she's my new boss, so... There you go. Well, why don't we, for people who don't know you, can you give maybe a little bit of the background of, your education and where you kind of came from and all that?
Yeah. So I am a lifelong resident of Newton, Illinois. So that's where I live with my husband and 3 boys. And I started out my education at Lakeland College. I went there for 2 years, and then I transferred to Illinois State Mennonite College of Nursing for 2 years and received my Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And then I really always wanted to teach, so I got my Master's in Nursing Education at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and then later finished up with a Doctorate of Education in Organizational Leadership and Higher Education. So that's really my background. As a nurse, I worked at Sarah Bush Lincoln, and then as an instructor, before I was an instructor, I worked at HSHS St. Anthony for Dr. Lisa Kowalski for many years in surgery. So my experience really in nursing is all around different kinds of surgery, before, after, during. It's definitely my passion. And then when I went into education, I then had students on medical surgical floors couple days a week, both at Effingham and Sarah Bush Lincoln for 10 years while I was working at Olney Central College in their nursing program. And then I got the opportunity to come up here and work in the RN to BSN program. And then Dr. Gail asked me to be the lead on a new face-to-face program here at EIU and to create the Gail and Richard Lumpkin School of Nursing. So I said yes.
Yeah. And then you said yes again because they named you the interim vice president for academic affairs, which is, it sounds like, academic affairs, that's easy, but there's a lot of duties with that provost position. Talk about, the quick learning and how you're going through that right now.
So it is definitely a big mindset change because I'm really used to focusing on the discipline of nursing and accreditation and teaching and all the hands-on that come along with academics. And so to look at it from a university lens, and academics in general and not just discipline specific, I have a lot to learn. So I've had a lot of meetings with people. There are a lot of things that are going on this campus, even in academics, that I didn't know about. And we're kind of isolated over there in 9th Street Hall in the School of Nursing. But I've just great people. We've got so many exciting things going on campus. I have a lot to learn, but.
Do you set expectations for yourself when you're going into this new venture?
Yes, I did. So I really did a lot of research on, what the role of a provost is. Even though I had an idea, I didn't really fully grasp it. And I really didn't fully grasp it until I actually was sitting in the chair either. But really to take the time to meet people and learn and get feedback and understand not just what faculty need, but how can we support faculty to do what's best for students.
So in this new position at Eastern, you're doing both really, the provost and you're still the director of nursing. So how do you handle the time and all that? So
as of tomorrow, Dr. Julie Dietz in Nutrition and Public Health is going to do the chair piece of the School of Nursing, okay. So that will be off my plate. And then Dr. Richard Clapp is going to be the Chief Nursing Officer as far as accreditation and curriculum and things like that. And he's already the director of the traditional nursing program, so it's a perfect fit for him to be over the academic part of nursing.
As a new provost, when you think about what are you looking forward to over this at least coming year to learn and do on the EIU campus?
What am I looking forward to? I'm really looking forward to students being here, honestly. This has been a great time to transition because it's slower and there isn't a lot going on, but I'm excited to be a part of more opportunities and celebrations and working with student government, which isn't something that I've had a chance to do in the past. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
How would you describe, or maybe you even have, maybe somebody else has told you, do you have a management style, the Holly Farley management style?
I do. I think I have a management style. One of the things that I often say is, I'm not sure that's a great idea, but let's try it. right? You know, if it's not going to kill anybody, let's try it. So I really come from more of a supportive role, and I prefer collaboration. I don't ever want to be like, yes, we're doing this because I said it.
Even though probably sometimes you will have to do
and
that.
sometimes I will have to do that, but that's generally not the greatest outcomes when you don't collaborate.
Now, the interim positions at Eastern, they kind of fluctuate. You don't know if it's going to be 1 year, 2 year. When it becomes open, is this something you want to continue to pursue for your career?
At this point, I think that I will.
I don't know if it's open yet or not. I don't even know what the complete details are, whether they've posted it yet or not.
I don't believe they posted it, but they have had meetings. The committee is set, and the timeline is to begin in the fall. So it'll be coming up.
What is the process of when you get named the interim VP for something like academic affairs at a university? What's the process when do you move offices? Do you take what does Easter make you do so people have a feel for what's like for you?
So I found out, I think in April, that I was named the interim acting provost, and I spent the next 2 months pretty much doing everything Ryan Hendrickson did. So Dr. Hendrickson, we met at least once a week, and then all of the meetings, dean's meetings and president's council and all of those things I started sitting in on so I could understand how those things worked. And then I also started meeting with the deans and other people that would be a part of those groups that I would be working closely with.
And how many different department heads are under the VPAAs here at Eastern?
There is associate vice president of academic affairs, and then there's the dean of each of the colleges, plus the dean of student affairs, which is Michael Gillespie. He was just named that, and the Jack and Gail and Jack Pine Honors College dean, and then there's and the library. So.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Are you a goal setter? Have you set goals for so you have some benchmarks you'd like to hit as we come into this in the fall school year?
I don't know that necessarily there are benchmarks per se, but retention is a really big. Not really. I don't want to say that it's a problem, but we're definitely not where we should be with retention as far as students and where they're falling through the cracks or what's not happening with them. And so before this even came about, we were talking about in the College of Health and Education, how can we do better for students? How can we change advising? How can we make sure that no one is getting missed and that they're getting the support that they need? So retention is definitely on my agenda.
When someone says an EIU education, what's that mean to you?
Well, I would have went to nursing school here if they had a nursing program. To me, it just means it's solid. It's just EIU is a tradition of turning out successful graduates that are ready to hit the field running.
Did you always know you wanted to go into nursing? I mean, is there something or when did you know?
No,
when did it hit you?
I didn't. So I even, in my senior year of high school, I waffled between education and nursing. And even when I got to Lakeland, I was like, I'm going to do nursing. And the next semester I was like, I'm going to do teaching. And then so I don't know what happened, but I had a friend that I lived with, and her sister was in a terrible accident, and we were visiting her in the ICU, and I saw what the nurses were doing, and I just... That was it for me. That's what I wanted to do.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I always knew that I wanted to teach, and I had a really great instructor in nursing school. Her name was Kathy Kaysberg, and she was just amazing, and I just knew that I wanted to teach nursing. So I would be able to do both. I've always wanted to be an educator, so...
That's cool. We need more nurses too. I mean, that's one of the things that when you talk to any of the people at any area hospital, that's what I say. Nursing is a great avenue to get a job immediately, and there's so many people doing it, and obviously there's a need out there. When you think about Eastern Illinois University, and you're going to now, recruiting is part of all of our jobs on this campus and things. So when you think about the best things about EIU, can you talk about a few of those?
Definitely the people, and I know everybody says that, and it's kind of cliche, but I really feel like the culture here is that the faculty and staff are really all in. I mean, they bleed blue, and they love EIU. And we had a meeting with some counselors that came through last week, and we were sitting at the tables or whatever, and almost all of us had blue on because we had an open house, because we had an open house. And one of the counselors said, "Is it a requirement that everybody wears blue here?" And I said, "Well, it is an open house day, but honestly, people wear a lot of blue just because it's EIU and they're proud of their institution."
There you go. And I wore blue today, but I
didn't.
Yeah, it's okay. That's all right. When you were hired, I like this line that you said. I'm going to read it. You mentioned you wanted to help EIU uplift and achieve its critical mission. And I don't know if you remember saying that or not, but when you say things like that, what does that mean? I mean, when you to the people out there or to maybe a prospective student.
Right. So a couple of the pieces in our mission statement is related to inclusion and diversity, and I really feel like inclusion and making students feel included and at home is a big part of their success. And I really saw that in nursing, especially with programs that are tough, but you need to build that family culture for them. And so I think that's important to work toward doing better. I mean, we do great, but I think we can do better on campus, but also supporting faculty so that they can deliver excellence in academics and research, creative activity, service, because nothing happens without
It's true.
All the people behind the scenes.
Do you have a great student success story that you could share? I'm throwing you on the spot a little bit there, but I just thought about when you said that because your eyes lit up when you talked about the students. Like somebody that maybe was thinking about quitting college or having a bad time that you said you pulled them out?
Well, I've got lots.
Oh, cool.
But nursing's different like that. We get to really spend a lot of time together. But one of I think it was our first nursing class here, so this was a recent experience. One of the students that was in our program was a first-generation college student, came from a lower-income family.
Yeah.
She had a brother that was, got killed in a gang and just, horrible, horrible things that she had overcome. And she really needed a pep talk a lot. Like, yes, you are supposed to be here. Yes, you can do this.
Yeah.
And so sometimes she would just come in and say, "Okay, I need you to tell me that I can do this." And I'm like, "Yep, you got it. Yep, you're supposed to be here. You're smart enough and you can do this." So I think students need to hear that.
I agree 100%. Obviously, did she go on?
Yes,
She's a nurse or something out there?
Yep, nope. She graduated. She passed her boards the first time. She's working back in her hometown in the hospital and
that's awesome.
Doing great.
I love to hear. We both get to work for Dr. Gatrell, and he's a great leader, and he motivates you. And he was in here 2 weeks ago, and bouncing off the walls in terms of just his excitement. How great is it to work for a president that's so hands-on and so kind of down to earth, intelligent, but also he just motivates you to want to do more. You feel bad because you're not doing as much as that guy does.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right. So I got to know Dr. Gatrell when we started the School of Nursing. So I worked really, really closely with him when he was in the provost position, and I just respect him, and I just every day he brings his passion for students, and so I just think he's great, and that was part of the reason why I said yes to this was because I would get to work closely with him, and I knew that he was in this position for several years, and so he would be, a great support for me in this role. So I can't say enough about Dr. Gatrell.
I want to jump back a little bit, for the nursing school that did that. You helped, kind of jumpstart here on the campus. How's it doing in terms of, student wise and the product wise and all that? So talk about that.
Yeah, it's great. So the students have to pass the NCLEX or the National Licensure Exam to be a registered nurse. Last year we had 100% NCLEX pass rate, which was awesome.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And so we were very proud of that. And also we have a capacity for about 50 per class. And this year we're going to be really close to the 50. So we purposefully went a little slower just to make sure that our curriculum was where it needed to be. And we did find out there were some things that we didn't know. And we moved that around. But I think it's really solid now. And we know we're ready to take on, more students, and we've got everything, kind of the processes and procedures, but we have gotten so much good feedback from Sarah Bush Lincoln. They just they think our students are great, and we love to hear that. And we've also had several students that were not from the area decide to stay and work at Sarah Bush Lincoln because
and that we need more
they
of.
like it. Yeah.
Because there's been definitely a downflux of population too in Mattoon and Charleston in the last few years. Student interaction is obviously important, and you said all of our doors are open all the time for students. But how do you plan on interacting with students in a new position when you see them on campus this fall?
Right. This is going to be hard for me because I'm not just going to be with students all the time in my building where I can just hear students. And so I just get up and go, hang out and start talking to them. So I'm just going to have to put myself out there and take walks around campus and just get involved.
What would be your approach if you saw a student? Maybe you don't even know if they're having a tough day, a good day, or whatever. You just go up and just introduce yourself.
Yeah, just go up and introduce myself and just say, hey, how's it going?
Okay. And then when you see parents with students, I know Dr. Gatrell loves that. He goes up to talk to the parents. Is that some of the same things you'll do?
Yes, definitely. And we do that a lot in the School of Nursing too. I'm not sure anybody knows this, but I think we probably have the highest tour rate on campus. Seems like there are people in our building all the time touring with their parents, and I love to hear their story and, hear where they're coming from.
It's great when they come. I understand when they come here, we can show them what we do, but you can also, that one-on-one time is so important that they're a student. Hey, you can start day one, and you can do this day one, and by the time you leave here, you have the experience. So
and the parents need to need to feel secure.
Yeah, I think so too. And like you said, with the family atmosphere and stuff, I think that helps a lot. When you think about the fall school year, I know nobody really knows how many people are going to be here, and if the numbers are down or up, it doesn't matter. But how excited are you to be the provost when the fall 25? It's fiscal year 26, but it's still fall 25.
Right.
So much stuff right now at the weirdest time of the year in our worlds. But how excited are you to see the students for this fall?
Very excited. I love a sharpened number 2 pencil. I love a new pad of paper. I just, it's just a sense of newness and exciting. It's exciting time for everybody.
We've been talking a lot about the good stuff. What about challenges for the fall semester that you see for, your office and all the people that you oversee? What are the biggest challenges on the board?
Well, I think budget is going to be the biggest challenge. We don't know what's going on, as far as the state. We don't obviously know what's going on as far as federal things. There's lots of kind of sad things happening around us, and so that makes it a little unease. So budget's going to definitely be a problem.
I know the Illinois budget, Dr. Gatrell said, is been approved, right? And then there's a moderate increase for Easter, but still, moderate increase with everything else going up is pretty much even. But there, and then obviously so we don't want to avoid the issue. WEIU is also under that. You're under, like I said, we're under your purview there, and there are important times coming up in Washington D.C. in the next couple of weeks. So when you think about that, what kind of goes through your mind?
Panic, to be honest.
I understand.
A little bit of panic. And mostly because that is such a direct impact, has such a direct impact on people, lives.
And students. When you think about it, and we've told the students for the fall, nothing will change for the fall, but that's really what we can tell them right now until we know more what happens, between now and July 18th. And we won't go into details about dates, but between now and July 18th is an important time for public broadcasting all around the country. And there's a lot of people that are, like you said, panic, on edge, nervous, and anxiety. And when you think about it too much, but is there, but we're not the only one on campus. There's 4 or 5 other people that rely on federal money that, and I don't know if any of those affect your or under you, but it still affects the whole campus.
Yeah, it affects the whole campus. And the, faculty are kind of charged with looking at making their programs as seamless as possible and looking at credits and, looking at our competitors and just how do you keep the same level of rigor, and with less. It's tough. It's tough. What do you do?
Yep. And then how do you empower your team or the people that are under you to to be motivated? Do you have a philosophy or something you kind of go by, or somebody you call to motivate you to motivate somebody else? What's your empowerment?
I don't know that I have anything specific.
That's okay.
I am a bit of a cheerleader. I was a cheerleader, and so I think it's just sending little notes, getting together, popping in offices, telling them that they're important and they matter. And
we'll get through this, right?
Yes, we will get through this.
When you're unfamiliar with different areas like, WEIU, you knew a little bit about us, but now that you're, more, how do you get up to speed, or do you get up to speed? Is there a process that you're going to be doing in the fall to spend more time here at the other places you're around?
Yes. So I've like making some lists, like starting to go through like different curriculums and doing research on how things came to be, or, all of that. So I'm kind of trying to strategically go through the different areas and learn. There's so much I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what position you're in, and like I was interim general manager for years, and then before the general manager, and even when you're the general manager, it seems like it's different than the interim, and so it's a never-ending learning process.
And it's crazy with Jay too, because he knows everybody's name on campus.
Oh yeah,
and it's just like, how you're amazing.
That's why he's the president.
That's why he's the president.
There you go. We're talking to Holly Farley today. She is the acting VP of Academic Affairs here at EIU, among many other things. Will you still teach, or do you not be able to teach when you're in a position like that in the fall?
I'm not in the fall, but that's not to say that I won't.
Okay, I didn't know that worked.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Like you talked about inclusion a little bit. I know that's a popular thing people are talking about all over the country right now. But what do you do to really, to make sure that inclusion and diversity is part of what EIU does?
So we are working with student success, really trying to amp up the different processes as far as academic alerts to make sure that if somebody's struggling, that everybody knows that they're struggling. And we haven't done well with that on campus. So that's one of the ways. And then just creating different programs to try to include students on campus. I think also the new policy of the students living in a dorm for 2 years versus the one will also help with some inclusion on campus, more time, under a resident advisor and somebody seeing them every day and being able to check on their mental health. So I think that's some of the big ways.
What about advice to somebody like, to us because we don't really teach students per se in the classroom here at WEIU, but we obviously work with 50 to 70 kids every fall and every spring. What advice would you give us if we see a kid having a bad day? What should we do besides, slapping them on the back and saying, hey, it's going to be okay? Is there things that we should tell them about in terms of services EIU provides?
Yes, there are lots and lots and lots of services, especially like through the health and mental wellness. And there are hotlines, and there are lots of things that you can do. And also, anybody can call and tell them about a student. You don't have to say who you are. You don't have to do any of that. And they'll contact the student just to follow up and make sure that they're doing okay.
As technology in the world is changing, so much around us, how do we make sure that EIU is relevant and and with our critical missions and all the stuff that we do to make sure that the kids are getting the proper education here at EIU?
So I believe that advisory boards are really important, and working with especially our local and regional organizations to know what they need. What do they need from the students? It's easy in the hospital, but there are also lots of other areas that we need to make sure that we're preparing students for, or exploring different programs if there's something new out there, because everything seems to be changing a lot.
Yeah, and so much tech stuff is crazy to keep up with. I never thought, my kids know more than I'll ever know about some things. Oh, Dad, you can do that on your phone. I'm like, you can?
Right.
And you feel like an idiot sometimes, but it's just the whole world changes so fast. We're talking to Holly Farley today. We have a few minutes left today. Anything else that you want to talk about today from your position and kind of your background as we look forward to the fall of 2025?
Yeah, so I really I'm really looking forward to being in this position. A little bit trepidation, coming into it, of course, but I think that I have the opportunity to make a bigger impact, to be able to work with more people and learn more and do more collaboration than I could when I was in my discipline-specific area, but also help to realize what are those new things that we need to focus on to maybe grow or, create a pathway toward for our students. So I'm really excited about that. I like to learn, and I get excited when we talk about educating students.
In Old Main, you have an open door policy where people can, unless you're obviously in a meeting that's closed door, but you have so people can just walk in and say, "Yeah, I can grab a minute." You don't care if it's a student or anybody.
Yep, anybody can walk in.
What about advice to people that work directly for you? What, how do you like to be approached, and what would you like for people to do that work for you?
If you need anything, just pop in. That's what I did in the School of Nursing, and sometimes it was just like, hey, I've just got this little situation. Can I run it by you? I know the answer, but I just want to run it by you. Okay, run it by me.
Go back to being a teacher. What were some of when you think about your teaching, what was your favorite thing about being a teacher?
I think my favorite thing about being a teacher is the light bulb moments when you see students get it, and then they have a really good experience with a patient, or they do really well on a test, and they go, yeah, oh my gosh, I totally get that. I'm so excited. And then it's just like, yeah, you're good. You've got this.
There you go.
Or I always said, would I want that student to walk in the room if it was my family member?
And there's a lot of them?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. So I always just try to make sure that I am doing the very best that I can for them so they can be successful.
Did you ever have a kid that, when you in a situation, we talked about it a little bit, but when you think about a kid who's really struggling and the light bulb goes on, do they I don't want to say, do they come up and thank you, or how do they interact with you when they realize that, hey, she's there on my side?
Sometimes they say thank you. Sometimes they just will pop in and just say, I got an 89% on my test. But that's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I do. I don't know. I was working with a student really closely this last year that was struggling. And so I was just like, hey, I'm going to be open if anybody wants to come in, and we're going to go over notes and we're going to do some stuff. And I was like, well, I started talking about stuff that wasn't my content. And she's like, how do you know all that? I'm like, you'll know all that too. I promise you. You can do this. You got it.
All right, some silly, unrelated questions, all right, to wrap this up. Well, not silly, but fun, all right? Summer vacation, are you even going to go on one? Are you going to go on one anywhere?
Yes. So we already had a trip planned prior to this, and we are going to Florida with my brother and his family.
All right. Most famous person you've ever met? Met? Shook hands with?
I was going to say, I shook George Strait's hand.
Well, that's a pretty famous person. That'll work. Your favorite class in high school? Do you remember what your favorite class in high school was?
Speech class.
There you go. First car?
A powder blue Mercury Lynx.
Ooh, the Lynx.
It was a 4-speed, and you had to have 2 miles each way before you took off out on the highway.
Do you have a hobby? Any hobbies that you do?
Yeah. So I like to read. I like to run. I like to put together jigsaw puzzles while binging whatever.
There you go. Okay.
Those are my favorite
Are you a
things.
fireworks fan? It's 4th of July week.
Yep. Fireworks fan.
Do you have a favorite song or a band that's your go-to when you need to hear some music?
Oh, probably anything from George Strait.
Okay. Holly, thank you so much. I look forward to working for and with you this year at EIU.
Thank you so much.
Everybody have a great day. We are WEIU.